If you could hypnotize your audience, you could get them involved with what you're saying right from the beginning. Right from the beginning of your speech, you get your audience focused into the right thing, thinking the right way, and wanting to hear what you have going on next. Just kind of do a little hocus pocus, watch me in the eye, and then the whole audience will be hypnotized, pulled in, and engaged in what you're saying. Now, well, you may not be able to actually hypnotize your audience. Nevertheless, there are hypnotic words you can use that are going to have a similar effect. Recently, I learned about powerful hypnotic words that you can use and have this amazing effect. Because there are certain words that once you start using them, they instantly have an effect on you. They're powerful words. They get your mind started, whether you wanted to get it started or not. You hear these words and you just start obeying them, just like that. And when you start using these words in your speeches, you suddenly have better results. And I know this because I've struggled with that question. How do you connect with the audience? How do you get the audience involved? It's been a challenge. It's been an issue. Then as I was reading through all these books on how to become a better speaker, I came across these hypnotic words. And I thought, okay, all right, I'll try them out. I'll see what happens. So I tried them out. Instantly I noticed and thought that, wow, the audience is really paying attention. These things really do work. It's amazing and so simple, so easy. Just a few words right at the beginning. Pull the audience in, get them involved, get them thinking about what I want them to be thinking about. Wow, this is really working well. This is good stuff. And there are three things that you're going to learn about today. 3 words, 3 techniques you're going to learn about. They're powerful and involving and getting the audience involved, getting the audience's interest. And when you start using them, you discover your speeches transform. You move to a whole new speaking level. And it's simple. All you have to do is to get your speech and start using these techniques, using these methods, using these specific words, and you will notice a difference in your speeches. The good news is they're simple to use. They're natural. Once you start using them, then the next words just kind of come naturally out of it. You don't have to say a lot of words to get the audience hypnotized, just a few words. And those, just starting out your speech with those few words will get the audience more involved. So as you speak more and longer, the audience starts thinking, what's going to happen next? I wonder what's going on. I wonder where this thing is going. What's this all about? I want to hear more. And that's the power of these words. It gets your audience to want to hear more. Once your audience wants to hear more, then you start to look really, really good on stage. You start to look good, like you know what you're doing. Get a little confidence in yourself. And afterwards, when you see your speech on a video, or somebody else plays it to you in a video, you think, went well. Really went well. And it was so simple. It was so easy. Just using those few words, and everything involved, got everybody engaged and interested right up front. It's a simple process that you can learn. Simple process that'll start you out with these words. The process will step you through what to do next. Once you start doing that, then in your speeches, you start to enjoy being up there, enjoy the speaking process. The audience enjoys it more, and you enjoy the whole process more, the whole procedure more. It just goes a lot better once you start using these 3 simple hypnotic techniques. First technique is in a powerful word. There is a word that is so powerful, once you hear it, you start to do it. Once you hear it, you start to do it. Instantly you hear it and you think, okay, I'm going to start doing that. And it's not even a conscious thing, it's a subconscious thing. This word is so powerful that when you hear it, instantly the mind says, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And even if you try to resist, you try to do something else, it doesn't work. There's no resisting this word. That's why it's a powerful hypnotic word. The moment your audience hears this word, they start to go into a different place. All of a sudden. And that magical hypnotic word is imagine. Imagine. There's an old saying, people sometimes say, they're trying to explain the power of the mind and how instantly the mind starts to work whether you want to or not. The old saying is, try not to think of a pink elephant. It's kind of the formula. Try not to think of whatever it is. And if you say that, try not to think of a pink elephant, instantly, boom, there's a pink elephant in your mind. All of a sudden, just like that. It's the same thing with the word imagine. Once you use the word imagine, everything that follows it, the audience starts imagining. It's that powerful. So for instance, I could have begun this talk by simply saying, imagine you could hypnotize your audience. Just that much. And instantly the whole audience would have this picture of, oh, okay, what would that be like? What would that be, how would that look? And then you continue on. As you continue on, your audience continues imagining. So after you say, imagine you could hypnotize your audience, say, imagine you're in front of your audience, and instantly your audience pays attention to everything you have to say. As you go through your speech, the audience pays attention and notes what's going on. They focus on the things you want them to focus on. They ignore the things you don't. And all the way through, you just have to use that word, imagine, again, to bring the audience into your speech, to pull them in and get their attention. It's an example of the word imagine. But it's that powerful. As you notice, already in your mind, you're imagining yourself being hypnotized. You're imagining yourself, picture yourself, see yourself sitting in the audience. It's that magical word, imagine, that is so powerful, so important. And once you start using the word imagine, the whole audience starts to imagine things. Things start to go into their head. And in doing that, you get the audience hypnotized. And once you get the audience hypnotized, you get them really focused in on what you want to talk about. Whatever it is, just by using that magical word, imagine. All of a sudden the audience is imagining what you want. They're going through it in their mind. It's a very powerful sort of thing. They start to put themselves into the scene. As they put themselves in the scene, they're going along with wherever you want your speech to go. That's how powerful the word imagine is. Then you kind of take control of the situation. Take control of the audience. It's a simple process. Just use the word imagine and then follow it out with what you want the audience to imagine. It'll make you more comfortable up there. Because once the audience, you see the audience is kind of in their own world thinking about what you want them to think about, that gives you the confidence in your speech as you go forward. You're thinking, oh, the audience is finally thinking what I want them to think about. Just because of that great word imagine. And then use it again. Now the second way is sort of like imagine, but a little bit different. Imagine is a very powerful word. Just by using the word imagine, you can pull people in. There's another word you can use that's also powerful and has a similar effect. Similar, but a little bit different. Imagine will get people imagining things. And they may get them thinking, as they start imagining things, they may kind of go into interesting places in their mind. You may not get as much control of them. The word imagine. So imagine is okay for a short time. If you wanted to go for a longer time, and you want to really control what's going on, this second hypnotic word is a very important one to also have and to use. If you really want people to just go down a particular path, you want to make sure they go down the right path, that word is picture, as in picture this. Picture. Imagine will have people thinking and getting things going, and that's good for a little bit. If you really want people to go down the path, you can use the magical phrase, picture this. Because while imagine gives people a kind of a chance to think about different things, picture this is very clear. Very clear. Once you say picture this, people are just waiting for what they're supposed to be picturing. So you could say, instead of imagine, picture this. You're in front of your audience. You're speaking to your audience, and your audience is hanging on every word. As you look out in the audience, you see the people engaged, interested. Picture their excitement on their faces. Picture the interest in their eyes. And as you go through and use these expressions, you discover that audience is involved, interested, and pulled into your speech. And as you give your speech all the way through, you keep that audience attention from the beginning all the way through to the end. At the end of the speech, you know the audience really gets your message. Picture this. That phrase, picture this, is incredibly powerful and incredibly simple. Just say picture this, followed by exactly what you want the audience to picture. Which means you have to be a little bit aware in the beginning about what exactly you want the audience to picture, because they'll picture whatever you're talking about. And to make sure whatever you're talking about, they picture, is relevant to your subject. But provided you do that, you have the audience picture things relevant to your subject, that will pull them in, that will really get them involved at a little deeper level than just the word imagine. Picture this is a word that helps control the vision that the audience has. Everything after picture this is they're picturing exactly what you say. So if you will have some important details that they really ought to know about, you want to make sure you include that. Use the phrase, picture this. But it's a powerful hypnotic word, because the moment you hear picture this, your mind starts to picture things. Pictures start to flash through your mind in a little deeper way and a little stronger way than just the word imagine. So imagine if you have kind of a short vision, you wanted, hey, imagine you were a millionaire, or that sort of thing. But then, if you really want to go into the vision, picture this. Picture this scene and really detail out that scene exactly the way you want it to be. Using picture this is a great way to get people involved, get people interested in what you're saying. Now the third way to get people involved is a little different from imagine and picture this. A little bit broader, but powerful, because it gets the audience focused in on what your subject is, and most importantly, gets them to think about how that subject relates to them. The final hypnotic words are words that are a little different from imagine and picture this. Where imagining is kind of a general interest into things, picture this is very specific to things, this final technique will really get the audience focused in on what you want them to be thinking about. It'll pull the audience into your world. So as opposed to imagine, which can suddenly just drag people into that world, and picture this can do the same effect, this technique will gradually get the audience from wherever they are to wherever you are. It's a powerful hypnotic effect, but it's a little more subtle. And that third, final technique is simply to ask a question. To ask a question. When you ask a question, the audience has to take your question and think about it, and that focuses them in on your subject. But most importantly, they think about that question in terms of their own experiences, in terms of what they're doing. So if you ask a question of, how often do you drive a car? You're talking about car driving. Then the audience has to think about that. Well, how often do I drive a car? And that gets the audience thinking. Their whole mind suddenly takes from wherever it was to getting into car driving, and most importantly, their own car driving. And then you can relate that to your own subject by saying, how often you drive a car, and you can say something like, I drive a car a lot. Maybe you do too. Something like that. Or I drive a car at least 3 times a day. Maybe people will relate to that. But the point is that you take from the question, gets the audience thinking about things from their experience, and then you pull them into your experience. It's a kind of a funnel. It starts out high and it just kind of funnels down. So it takes the question. Once you have the question, that gets the audience thinking, okay, I'm thinking about things that have to do with your subject, and then you kind of narrow them down to the channels that are really thinking about your subject. Powerful questions are of, have you ever? Did you ever? How often have you? When have you? Those are all powerful questions because they get the audience thinking about their own experience of the subject you're going to be talking about. Then the challenge is to take the audience's experience and make it relevant to your experience. That's the kind of the bridging connection there. That's the purpose of the question. So whatever question you asked should have to do directly with your topic. And more specifically, should get the audience to think about the topic in the way that your speech talks about it. So if you're talking about the importance of safety, car safety, say, how often do you drive a car? How often have you been in an accident? When I drove a car, I didn't think much about it. I didn't really worry about accidents until I had my first big accident. And that pulls people into the world of your speech. You're talking about cars, more specifically talking about accidents. Now here's my situation with my accident. And then people will naturally think, okay, well, you've got your accident, I've got my car situation, maybe an accident, and there'll be some connection there. People will start to draw some connection because of the power of that question. So questions are hypnotic. So you pull a person in, they get them involved, they get them interested in what you're saying, and then you kind of funnel them down into specifically what you're talking about for the nature of your questions. And then you change that, you move that into your own topic by giving the next part of your story or what happened to you. The audience then relates what happened to them back to your story. That's the hypnotic power of the third technique of questions. You have the ability to hypnotize your audience. And you can hypnotize your audience using one of three different words, techniques. The first word, technique, is the word imagine. This is the sort of word you use when you want to get the audience focused in and thinking about what you're talking about. It's a kind of general focus, and it just gets the audience kind of around what you're saying. So it's important when you use the word imagine that they don't go off and imagine too many things that are off topic, as long as just imagine what's going on briefly and then get them over into your topic. If you want to particularly drill people down into really getting through how you want them to see the world, then the phrase picture this is very valuable. Once you say picture this, the audience will be led step by whatever you picture. You say picture this, they see in their head something like an open frame. And then you put into that frame what the audience will see. Now, the audience will make up some of the details, but a lot of the picturing will be done by what you say and how you say it. Then once they picture that, then you can move that, you can transition that over into your speech, into your experience. But it's a very good way to direct the audience down the path that you want them to go. Now both in imagine and in picture this, there's a sudden change of dragging the audience out of their world and suddenly sticking them into a new situation. If you want to avoid that, you can use a question. Use a relevant question that's relevant to the audience's experience and relevant to what you're talking about. Have you ever? Could you ever? Did you ever? If you've ever? How often have you? These are powerful questions that get the audience thinking about your subject, whatever it is. How often have you driven a car? How often have you had an accident? I drove a car a lot, didn't have an accident, but once I had my first accident, I knew there were a lot of things that I should have been thinking about. So the question gets the audience, taps into their world, gets them thinking about their world, and then you gradually, with the questions, finally bring them gently into your world, into your subject, into your statement. The great thing about hypnotic words is that they're very powerful. And they're very powerful to direct and control the audience to a certain extent. How much control you have over the audience depends upon what words you use and how you use them. When you start using these words, these picture words in your speeches, you'll notice the audience starts to instantly get into your speeches. You may get feedback afterwards of like, I felt I was there. Or, I know what you're talking about. Or even better, I've had the same thing happen to me. I really know what your speech is. I really appreciate that. These hypnotic words are powerful in getting the audience involved and opening them up to this experience. Open them up to maybe a different way of looking at things that they're familiar with, but they've never looked at in that way. You give them a new perspective, a new point of view by using these powerful hypnotic words. As you start using them, and you really get control of that audience and see that control of the audience, then you're going to find that it's much easier and more comfortable to go up there and present. Because these picture words will help you really get involved with the audience all the way through. All the way through, as you use these picture words and bring them up in different combinations, singly, together, you'll find that your speeches are more engaging, more interesting, the audience is more pulled in and more involved. So, you want your next speech to go well? All you have to do is to hypnotize your audience.